Hey y'all, welcome back to Fusioneers. Today we're going to be talking about how to make a cube using a circular pattern method. So that might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but hopefully it'll make sense here in a second. So if we go back into our Fusioneers cube folder, we're going to go ahead and click File, New Design, and then we're going to save this as Cube Circular Pattern. Alright. Actually, we're going to turn on the origin, and then we're going to start with our sketch. And then we're going to click here. And if you remember the quarter circular pattern, what we did was basically make those pizza slices, and then we patterned them in a circle. So it's going to be a pretty similar technique here, but we're going to make basically 4 quadrants of the cube, and then we're going to pattern that in a circle. So if you think about that, if you want to just make like 1/4 of a cube and you want to center it around the origin, what would be the best sketch to use? So just think about that for a second. To me, it would be the 2-point rectangle. So the way we would do that, it's the default here. You can also click Create Rectangle, 2-point rectangle. Or what I would recommend is use the R shortcut. So that's what I'm going to do. If you just click R on your keyboard, we can select here, and then we're going to draw it out that way. And so if you're trying to make 1/4 of a cube, you basically want both of these to be a half of a cube, right? And our dimensions for this cube are 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch, or 25.4 millimeters cubed. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Dimension. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to say 25.4 divided by 2. And then we can do the same thing for this side, 25.4 divided by 2. And if your rectangle is not black right now, the most likely reason is because you didn't constrain it with the origin. So I'm just going to go back really quickly for those people. Say I drew my rectangle over here, and then we did the same thing. We said 25.4 divided by 2, and then I'm going to use the shortcut where I say dimension. I'm just going to make this equal to that. So it's the same thing I just did, just a little bit different way. And you'll see here it's still blue. So if I click Escape, I can move this around. And we want it to be fixed. So the way you would do that, if you accidentally didn't do it from the beginning, is you click Coincident. You click this little corner here, and you should be able to see that it's on that corner. So you click that, and then we click here. Oops. There we go. Sometimes you have to click it a couple times for whatever reason. And so you'll see here now it's black, it's fully constrained, and that's what we want. So we're going to click Finish Sketch, and now we can go back to the home view, and we see that we're basically made this quadrant of the drawing for the cube. So now we're going to click E, which is Extrude, and you'll see that it'll automatically snap to that square that we drew. And now we're just going to make it 25.4. So we're going to make it the full height. We're making it 1/4 of the size. So click Enter. And now if we look from the top, what we want to do now is we want to do a circular pattern to make it into a cube. And so the way we'll do that is click Create, and then we'll go down to Pattern, Circular Pattern. And then we're going to select this body here. And then we want to select the axis as the origin here. And you don't want this axis and you don't want that axis. So it's probably better to go back to the home view and rotate around to get to this blue here. If you'll kind of zoom in, you should be able to see there's a blue vertical axis there. Or you can also just select the side here, or this edge here. So if you select that, now we see that it's patterning around that center axis there. And the only issue with this is we only have 3, so we need to change this to 4. And now we have what looks more like a cube. So as I mentioned, this was just 1 quadrant, and then we make the other 3. Click OK. All right, so now that we applied the pattern, we have our cube. The only issue is that if you go into the browser, you can see that we have 4 separate bodies. So when we did that patterning, it didn't combine them. It just made them into separate bodies that are just next to each other. So what we want to do is combine. So you can pick one of these, it doesn't really matter. That's our target body, which means that's the one that we're joining to. And then our tool bodies are going to be all these other ones. And then we're going to click OK. You can leave all this as default, and you'll see here the operation that we're using is join. Click OK, and now you see we have just one body. So again, this is not the best way to make a cube. I think you can probably understand that, but I think it's just a good representation of using kind of a technique that would be useful in other situations. So for example, you have a square table, but you want to put 4 legs on it. You could make 1 leg over here, and then you could pattern it kind of like we did around this origin, and we could have all 4 legs on the table. So that's just an example of one way that you might use circular pattern. Don't think of it as just for circles, is what I'm trying to say. You can use it for squares especially. It works pretty well. So thank you for taking time to watch, and see you in the next one.